Hello, fellow artists. My name is Teri Jones, and I'm going to show you this new method, I don't know, new way of painting that I kind of discovered yesterday just while playing around with graphics paper. Many years ago, I did an entire show on synthetic paper and watercolor. I do like how watercolor works on synthetic paper. And yesterday I was doing a show. I was videoing painting on both sides of the Duralar matte paper, which is semi-transparent, which gives me some really good results on the back side, but it's fairly dull. So what I wanted to do was to figure out a way that I could paint some darker highlights and then put some alcohol ink on top of it. So what I decided to do yesterday is I was painting a little forest scene, and it's just a couple birch trees, which is all I'm going to do. And it's pretty simple. This is watercolor. I'm using Daniel Smith. That color happens to be um, a quinacridone sienna, I think, or quinacridone orange. Now what you'll see is that one of the things that I love about the watercolor on the UPA or on this graphics Duralar is that it it still stays where it needs to go. It doesn't bloom like alcohol inks. So the next color I'm going to use here is I'm just going to use a little bit of, this is Payne's Gray, and I'm just letting it kind of become part of the little tree here, and I am just working on getting generally the idea of a tree here, and I might work a little bit with making some darker areas in it. This is just very loose painting. I actually do want some white spaces showing, whether it's going to be some white from snow or what. So here I'm just going to end up indicating a little piece of white there. And then I might work just a little bit at muddling some of these puddles. Now these will stay wet pretty long, and I can go back in them and play with them and see if I can get a better, I don't know what the definition of better here. Obviously here I've got a branch coming out here, so I'm going to bring that branch out. I'll bring a little bit more of the very wet brown in it, and you know, sometimes you have to go 2 or 3 times to get this to really work on the paper, but that's okay. Probably should have cleaned off the paper before I did it, but I didn't. Oops. So here's another branch, and maybe I'll just put another branch through there. The whole idea of this is a little bit of looseness. It's not supposed to be in any way perfect. It's just beginning to indicate, you know, what looks like a nice little tree branch. You know, in my mind, I'm in a park somewhere, and I've got a few of these branches coming out, and there'll be more later, but right now I'm just giving a little indication here. So now I'm going to put a second tree, and I think I'm going to do 3 trees. Again, do it the same way. Get some really wet, I think I'm going to put 2 on this side and make them be a little farther back. So here I've got some very wet of the gold, or the quinacridone, whatever it is, quinacridone sienna, I'm fairly certain, with Daniel Smith. Now, in my mind, I don't know where the light's going to be, so I guess I should just I'm thinking that I'm going to have a light source right about here. And if I do, I probably would end up with, end up with shadows on the trees, but the lightest lights will be toward the light source. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some of the, this is the Payne's Gray. I like the way the Payne's Gray flows and granulates and things. And I'm making some moves, making it look a little birchy, not worrying a whole lot about anything. I might end up bringing a branch from maybe down here, and then on the other side I probably am going to do the same kind of thing, which is I'm going to just indicate that it's a little thicker than this, and there's a little white in it somewhere, a little light, and we'll bring some light down here and we'll cross it over and just play sketchy tree. I want a sketchy tree. And again, I'm going to do another tree. This time I'm going to come a little farther in this direction, and I'm going to do the same thing. I've got my pile of color. I'm going to put some color down very wet. Don't like what happened with here, but the magic of the watercolor on the graphics is literally it'll wipe right off. So if I want to, I can just take a wet brush, and it'll come right off here with just a little bit of paper towel, which I don't have here, but that's okay. And it really wouldn't have been that big of a deal anyway, but I was just showing you how easily it will just wipe off to clean, which is good depending on what you're doing. I mean, that just wiped back basically to clean. So here I go again. I'm going to go back to my work, and I'm going to go back to my playing with these trees, and put another tree up here. And this is the park-like trees where they're all stately underneath because somebody has already decided that these trees are you're not going to have low branches so the children can't climb them in the park and then sue the city. That's in my mind, that's what I'm thinking. And so again, putting this Payne's Gray in the one side, letting it do its own little flowing thing, working at getting a couple dark areas coming out. Let's get that. I'm going to make this a little darker on this side here. This is a more dramatic of the trees. There we go. That one's pretty dark. And again, it's got, let's see, I think it's got a branch here. And it probably has another branch coming out somewhere around here that's a little thicker. This is in front of that tree, so it's going to go right over that tree in some way. And it's probably going to go right over that tree right there too. And this one is behind it, so it might even go behind a little bit. I would probably end up highlighting these a little more and maybe even putting a little bit more of a dark color in places on here. Now I can also work a little bit with my brush and maybe even make these look a little more dark wintry trees, you know, with some bark on them. You see, if I use the side of the brush and just kind of slide through now, this will end up giving it a little more texture in the tree itself. I like that look a little bit. I want the trees to be very dark and very dramatic. So I might want a few darker areas in there, but you know, I do want this to be colorful, dark, dramatic trees. Okay. This side, the same thing. I want to end up, I'm pulling it into me with this one, but I'm just ending up with a little more, a little less lightness and a little more just some dark stuff happening in here. And making it a little bigger. And I can make a little, I mean, there might be a little stick coming here and there from the tree. Why not? I mean, the trees aren't totally perfect here. They've got some stuff happening. And let's see what happens. I think this is actually going to be a branch. And, you know, and I don't have to connect my branch everywhere. This is just very sketchy. So my thought is that this is, there's a big forest actually somewhere back here that's behind this area. And in that big forest, there's also some trees. But these trees are much lighter, and they're very much in the distance. And I'm just going to pull some shapes up through here. And I'm just kind of letting it be much more imprecise, I guess the word is I'm looking for. I mean, it's going to come behind that, and this one might come over this way, and this one might actually have a little branch coming up that way. And I might have another one that's kind of working up this way, and I might end up with another something coming that way. And these are way in the distance, maybe even all the way up a little bit. This is my background. This is my beyond the trees that you're seeing. This is what I've got. And so I might have a fairly big tree somewhere here, and I might have some smaller trees back here. And these are of a much lighter value. They're in the distance. They're just happening. And then a lot of these may actually end up with pieces that are going across too, because this is more, you're seeing more of the you're seeing more of the smaller branches in the trees coming. So this is kind of playing. I don't like this being with nothing around it. Let's put some stuff coming behind it. Okay, so now I have some distant something here. And I'm not that fond of that line I put there. So let me just make this into possibly a bushes. You know, I've got some bushes back there and a little bit of stuff back there that really just looks like it's grasses and bushes and stuff, and might end up with a few little things coming up. But we're going to put some snow on this, so it's going to also get kind of snowy. So here I've got my trees. I want to possibly bring my trees. They're going to be in the snow, but there probably is going to be some stuff around the trees, I would think. but we're just going to let that be for right now. Okay, so those are my watercolor trees. I probably should take them all the way up, huh? Oh, it is all the way up. This paper is a little higher than, or a little bigger. It's 7.5 by 9.5. So I may end up taking another few branches and bringing them like out a little lower down. Let's bring out another branch here, and then maybe at least another something here. Let's get that to come a little more interesting. This one needs to be a little darker, and it probably needs some pieces hanging, you know, some downs and some ups and some ups, and oh, keep your finger. So this is still wet. For those of us that are used to playing with alcohol inks, the problem is that the alcohol inks are pretty much dry by this point. But this is watercolor, so I just smudged a little bit there. Once it dries, it'll be dry, but first it's got to dry. So I'm cleaning up that little piece there, and then I'm going to stop while I dry this. So my trees are dry, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work with some alcohol inks. And the tools that I'm using for the inks, I don't want to make the brush too much. So I'm going to use some of these straws that'll just kind of move the ink a bit on the surface. I will also probably use a brush. I will possibly use some inks in the palette. We will see. But in my mind, there's sunshine coming through this forest, and there's a little bit of snow on the ground. So I think first I'm going to do some snow, and what I want to do is I want to take something like Stonewashed, and I'm literally just going to end up putting some snow down here, and then I'm going to pull it down a bit with my straw. Just kind of let it become a little bit, just work a little bit with it. I obviously need more on this side, and I'll bring it down. I can lightly clean off, if it gets too far on the trees, I can lightly clean it off if I want. I also am thinking that there's a path of some kind through here. So I'm going to indicate a bit of that path. Okay, and then I'm just going to let the alcohol inks do their little alcohol ink thing, and just continue to let them come on down. Now, what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to use any water in this. I'm just using the alcohol. Okay, so the water has gone away, and now I can work with some alcohol and work with doing some interesting things in my path if I want. I can soften things up. I'm just kind of playing a little bit here. I think the path's going to come a little around this way and then come a little more this way, and actually I'm going to let it come down a little bit this way, just making a little, ooh, I obviously have a little bit of a different color in there, but that's the price of using used Fantastics. But so far I'm liking it. Now I don't like the little blue that happened there, but as you can see with the almost dry Fantastic, it pulls right back up. I can pull that right back up. Okay, so I'm liking the snow, giving it a little bit of interest. I can actually paint a little bit with the Fantastic too. So I might want to put a little bit more of some shadowing here in this grass area that I've got here. And I think I'm going to probably just end up with a little bit of snow in this background. Just a little bit, as if this snow has, there's still a little bit of snow back there. We'll see. I'm going to put some sunshine also back in that in a second. So I like the snow. I'm not too sure about this, but let's just give it another little snowy shape thing happening. Maybe I'll get some more. Don't like that hard line a lot, but I like how blue and alcohol ink just look like some snow. And I can even like put what looks like a little bit in the way of footprints coming through here if I want. Looks like there's been some people through this snow in this path right here. There, I kind of like that. Very nice. So the next thing I'm going to do is I want to put some of a sunset kind of. These are going to be very long shadow days. So I'm just putting a bunch of this that was yellow, and this is sandal, I think, or is it peach Bellini? It's peach Bellini. Then I'm going to put just a tiny bit more of a red out here, and I'm going to give me a little more yellow out there, and I'm just going to let it almost just what I would call become. I'm going to do just a tiny bit of work with this brush, but I'm just kind of pulling up some of these colors, letting them mingle lightly together. I don't like it got a little too dark over there, but let me put a little bit more yellow in that area. And I'm liking the color combination I'm kind of getting here. And I just want to just lightly get this. And so now I also want to do something here. I don't like this just absolute mess there, but I might want to just pull up a little bit, like there's a little bit more in the way of snow in this back. Last time I put a wall in here instead of doing this, and I might really end up putting a wall in there again with this one. I don't know. I'm debating it. I don't like that particularly. It got too dark. I'm liking a lot of it, and I'm not liking some of it, but that's okay. This is alcohol ink, so I can come back here and I can pull some of this out and I can play with it a little bit and see what it happens. And it seems like as long as I don't do it really wet or with a brush, this seems like it works really well in around my trees. It's not really pulling out my trees. I can always enhance the trees a little bit later if I want, but I'm starting to kind of like that. I do also want it to be brighter right in the very middle. I want it to look as if the sun is literally coming through there. So I'm going to try the old trick of what happens if you just put a drop of alcohol. So let us say that the sun is almost set and it's coming through the trees right there. So I am seeing what happens here as I pull that light up. I think I want more. I want it softer and around, so I'm going to keep on doing it a little around ever so slightly. And then possibly what I can do, because I still want to have those, no, kind of like that. Let me see what happened here. What do I got in there? I still want to get this really light in here. And then I'm going to probably put those trees right back through there. You got a little bit of the trees there. One of the things that happens with trees like that, though, is that they get kind of lit. So I'm going to try to see what happens if I just put the trees through with the alcohol that I've got here and get them a little more brighter right around where my sun is. I think I like it. I have a little bit of well, I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot. Okay, so now the next thing that I discovered, okay, is I've discovered that I can go back now if I want. I can always go back with the alcohol, but I can also go back if I want with a little bit of watercolor. So let's just say that I want to put a few little highlights in the snow over here. So what if I just take a little bit of watercolor and highlight just a bit of the snow? What I find is it doesn't turn it totally into so I've got this snow, this light coming through here, and I want to put some color in the snow right down there. I think I might even put some of the orangier color in places. Let's just see how this works to just give me a little bit. Okay, now sometimes I have to keep on working on it because with enough of the alcohol ink on it, it starts resisting a little. But I like what's happening here. I'm not worried about it. I think I like it. I'm going to take a little tiny off with this, but I'm going to call that. I like it. It gives it just a little bit of Now I could also try doing a little bit of that with, now let me see. I like that. Pull it off. So now it is at the point that I really need to look at what am I going to do for the long shadow. So now I've got these trees, this sun. You can see the sun is so bright that it's hurting your eyes, and it looks like the trees there are a little, almost a little, well, I don't like that either. Taking that out. See? The good news is that I can take it out. Oh, but now I like it much better. I like the look of the trees being very, very, very light. What I see is when I do in nature, when you're trying to look at this kind of stuff and the light showing through it, the light wraps around it so you really don't see it as much. Okay, so next I'm going to look at shadows. So I like this. I'm still debating of maybe seeing what happens if I put a tiny bit of the yellow in here, but I don't know. Just a tiny bit. Not really floating my boat. I do think I need a little, ooh, that doesn't float my boat either. But yeah, I think I was better off. Whoops. So you have to remember which ones you're cleaning off with, right? You got to clean up. Well, that's a little floating my boating. So I just play. I just play. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make the long shadows. So my long shadows literally are, first they're coming from the tree. Here I am, and I'm going to bring that out from this tree. This one's going to probably come more down this way. This one's almost straight down this way, right? Because it's a fairly long shadow. But then you got all of these shadows for these guys. So I might end up with some roughly looking shadows down here coming from all of this. Okay, so I love the shadows, and they might break up a little bit in here. So I'm just kind of pulling some shadows down, pulling some shadows down. And I'm not making straight lines. If I make straight lines here, they will end up looking too flat. So here I've got this, and I've got this, and I'm going to come here. And this one's coming this way. And this one, there's one way back there that's just kind of coming like this. And then this one's coming this way farther. And this one still is working a little bit this way. And this guy comes this way, and this guy comes this way. So I've got all of this shadowing happening. And I might have some darker stuff happening too. So it's up to me whether or not I want to do anything darker in that background. I could switch back to my watercolor and just darken a very little bit of some of these back trees. You know, and I don't have to darken all of it. I could just darken some of them just a little bit, just to give a little more definition to things. And that helps with the background too. So this goes right, this can go right over the alcohol ink too. So now I've got just a little more. What I wanted to specifically do is I want it to be ever so slightly darker right down here around the bottoms, you know, because it's kind of darker down there. Well, that might be too darker down there. But let's go with it. Let's go with it. Let's go with it. Let's go with it. And again, then I can switch back to my shadows, and there's going to be a shadow of whatever this is, this snowy, whatever that is. I need to now go back to alcohol, and here I go. So here I've got a little shadow happening from the edge of the forest, the little thing that's not really a path, but it's kind of coming into. I still want to redefine my path a little bit through here, but there's just a lot of shadows, a lot of interesting feeling in it. And I still want a little bit more of the yellow through the very center here. Maybe even a little more of a touch of the coral. Just a touch, just a touch. Like there's the sun is reflecting a bit down here in these areas. Well, I'm liking that. I think I like that. Okay. Now I can start thinking about taking off snow. Now, because I put this on with the in alcohol ink, I can just take a little bit of snow right from these little cricks that happen. And if I want to, I can take something like this very, very fine, of course I have to get it working, the very fine brush. That's not going to work. Let me see if it's going to work now. No, I'll have to do it with a, okay. So I can put a little bit of snow on these branches. And so it's not going to take off the black, it just takes off where I am, it's not going to take off the branch because it's just alcohol. It's just going to take off the little bit of snow. I'm going to put a little bit of snow in here too. And I also want to put, there is a little bit of snow on top of whatever these things are here. They're kind of snowy, whatever they are. They're bushes or some things that have caught the snow, and now I'm pulling off the light with a little alcohol and pulling out some more whites. And there I go. So I like that. I like the trees. I like everything that's happened so far. I don't think I really want to soften this just a little bit. How did that get? Oh, remember what you're working with. I wanted to just soften this just a tad. It appears that it got a little hard-edged there. Give it a little more. And I'd really like to find one of my other pens, but we'll see what I got here. And then I can just end up with just a little tiny bit more of branches with an alcohol ink marker, which I should have right here. So now I'm just kind of just playing a little bit, trying to get some more filigree happening, maybe even some that's going to be around the tree, getting some more little branches out, getting some more branches coming up, maybe even more branches coming down. I like the feeling that there's a lot going on in the woods, whatever part of the woods we're in here. That's behind that. So somewhere along the line I lost a little bit right there, but you know, I can just gain it by going like that. And I'm thinking, you know, there's also, I'm a big fan of squiggles and just of kind of grounding things with calligraphy. So if I put a few extra twigs and stuff down here, to me it always looks better. And then I'm just going to sign it. So I'm going to call this one done. I like it. It's a different process, and I hope you guys try it and see whether you like it. Thanks.